It is one of the most famous battles of the ancient world, but few know the full story of Thermopylae. In 480 BC, the greatest empire of the ancient world was moving toward Greece. Its ruler was Xerxes, king of Persia, lord of a vast realm stretching across Asia, Egypt, and the eastern Mediterranean. 10 years earlier, his father, Darius, had attempted to conquer mainland Greece, only to suffer a humiliating defeat at Marathon. Xerxes would not allow that defeat to remain unanswered. For years, the Persian Empire prepared. Troops were gathered from many nations. Supply depots were established along the invasion route. Great bridges of ships were built across the Hellespont, allowing the army to pass from Asia into Europe. A canal was cut through the Athos Peninsula so that the Persian fleet could avoid the dangerous waters that had destroyed an earlier expedition. This was no reckless invasion. It was one of the most carefully organized military campaigns of the ancient world. Writers of that time claimed that Xerxes brought millions of men. Those numbers are almost certainly impossible. Modern estimates vary greatly, but the Persian force probably numbered somewhere in the tens or hundreds of thousands. Whatever the true figure, the message was unmistakable. The Persian king had gathered the strength of an empire, and that empire was coming south. Greece was not yet a single nation. It was a land of independent city-states, divided by rivalry, pride, and old hatred. Some Greek cities believed resistance was hopeless. They submitted to Xerxes and offered him the traditional symbols of obedience, earth and water. Others chose to fight. For perhaps the first time, a number of Greek city-states agreed to face a common enemy together. Sparta, respected throughout Greece for the discipline of its army, was given command of the forces on land. Athens, whose growing navy had become one of the strongest in the Greek world, would form the heart of the allied fleet. But courage alone would not stop Persia. The Greeks needed a place where the immense size of the invading army could be turned against it. They found such a place at Thermopylae. Its name meant the hot gates, after the warm springs nearby. It was a narrow coastal passage trapped between steep mountains and the sea. At certain points, the road was so confined that only a limited number of soldiers could fight side by side. There, the Persian army would not be able to surround the Greeks easily or bring its full strength into battle. At the same time, the Greek fleet would confront the Persian navy near Artemisium. The two operations were part of the same plan. If either position collapsed, the other could be threatened. Thermopylae was therefore more than a desperate last stand. It was a carefully chosen position within a larger Greek strategy. The man chosen to command at Thermopylae was Leonidas, one of the two kings of Sparta. He did not march north with the full Spartan army. According to tradition, Sparta was observing the religious festival of the Carneia, while the Olympic Games were also taking place. Leonidas went ahead with an advance force of 300 selected Spartan citizens. Each was reportedly chosen because he already had a living son who could continue his family line. The implication was grim. These men were not selected because survival was expected. They were selected because Sparta believed their families would continue if they did not return. But Leonidas and his Spartans were not alone. Soldiers joined him from across Greece: Arcadians, Corinthians, Phocians, Locrians, Thebans, Thespians, and others. Herodotus's account places the original Greek force at roughly 7,000 men, although the precise total remains debated. The 300 Spartans formed its most famous and disciplined corps. These men came from different cities, with different customs and different reasons for fighting. Some defended their homes, some defended their allies, some fought because honor demanded it. Together, they prepared to face an empire. When Xerxes reached Thermopylae, he did not attack immediately. Perhaps he expected the defenders to understand the hopelessness of their position and withdraw. They did not. A Persian scout was sent forward to observe them. Some of the Spartans were exercising, others were calmly combing their long hair. The Spartans arranged their hair when they prepared themselves for mortal danger. They were preparing to meet it with dignity. Xerxes demanded that the Greeks surrender their weapons. Leonidas's legendary reply was short: "Come and take them." They had not come to negotiate their passage home. They had come to hold the road. The terrain immediately proved its value. The Greek hoplites fought in tightly packed formations, shield beside shield. Their large, bronze-covered shields protected much of their bodies and helped guard the men beside them. Their long spears allowed them to strike before many Persian soldiers could reach them. The Persians were brave and experienced fighters, but many were more lightly armed. On open ground, their numbers, cavalry, archers, and mobility could be devastating. Inside the narrow pass, many of those advantages disappeared. Only a limited number of men could approach the Greek line at once. The Greeks also knew how to create the illusion of retreat. Groups would fall back, tempting Persian soldiers to rush forward in disorder. Then the Greeks would suddenly turn, reform their line, and attack. Wave after wave was sent into the pass. Wave after wave failed to break it. Xerxes sent forward elite troops, known to the Greeks as the Immortals. They were among the most respected soldiers in the Persian army. Their unit was said always to remain at full strength because every fallen man was immediately replaced. But even they could not break the defense. The battle was no miracle. It was the result of discipline, training, courage, superior heavy equipment in close combat, and a battlefield chosen with great intelligence. The Spartans fought exactly as their reputation promised, and beside them, the other Greeks also stood their ground. For 2 days, the pass remained closed. The greatest army in the world could not force its way through. Yet Thermopylae had one weakness. A mountain path led around the pass and descended behind the Greek position. Leonidas knew of the route and placed Phocian troops in the heights to guard it. But a local man named Ephialtes revealed the path to the Persians, hoping to gain a reward. During the night, a Persian force began climbing through the mountains. The march was difficult and silent. The soldiers moved through darkness and forest, following a route that would take them behind the Greek army. The Phocians heard the sound of movement among the leaves and realized that enemy troops were approaching. Taken by surprise, they withdrew to higher ground and prepared to defend themselves. But the Persians did not stop to fight them. Their target was Leonidas. By morning, news reached the Greeks below. The mountain path had been lost. A council was held among the Greek commanders. Some wished to withdraw while escape was still possible. Leonidas allowed most of the allied army to leave. This was not cowardice. The men who withdrew could fight again in the battles still to come. But someone had to remain behind. A rear guard could delay the Persians and protect the retreat of the others. Leonidas stayed, and his 300 Spartans stayed with him. The Spartans knew what the coming hours would bring. Still, they remained. And others remained beside them. 700 hoplites from the city of Thespia refused to leave. Their commander was Demophilus. There were also around 400 Thebans. Helots and other attendants were present as well. Together, they prepared for the final attack. On the last morning, Leonidas did not wait passively for the Persians to close the trap. The Greeks advanced. Their purpose had changed. They could no longer hold Thermopylae indefinitely, but they could still make the Persian victory costly. The fighting became more savage than before. The Greeks drove forward with their spears. When the spear shafts broke, they drew their swords. When formations collapsed, men fought at close quarters. Leonidas was killed. A fierce struggle erupted around his body. Several times the Greeks drove the Persians back and recovered him, but the defenders were being worn down. Then the Persian force from the mountain path appeared behind them. The trap was complete. The surviving Greeks withdrew to a small hill for their last defense. When the battle ended, Leonidas and the Spartans around him were dead. The Thespians had fallen beside them. Some of the Thebans surrendered when further resistance became impossible. The road through Thermopylae was finally open. The Persians had won, but they had been forced to pay for every step. Thermopylae did not end the invasion. Xerxes continued south. Athens was evacuated and then occupied. The temples of the Acropolis were burned. The sacrifice at the pass gave the Greek alliance something it desperately needed: time. The naval battles near Artemisium also helped prepare the Greeks for the struggle that followed. Soon afterward, the Greek fleet won a decisive victory at Salamis. The following year, the allied Greek army defeated the Persians at Plataea. The invasion failed. Thermopylae was not the final victory. It was the opening sacrifice of a campaign that Greece would ultimately survive. The men who died at Thermopylae became immortal because their actions expressed something that every generation understands. They knew they were mortal. They knew they were outnumbered. They knew that courage would not make them invulnerable and that discipline would not guarantee survival. Yet they stood. Their story has endured for 25 centuries because it represents an ideal that remains powerful, that some things are worth defending, even when the cost is everything.